Paris, where they're investigating what could be a terrorist attack, but they're not defining it as such. They're being very, very cautious about a police officer who was killed at a traffic light. The assailant killed as well, but there was an additional gunman, and that's what has concerns here, that this could be a little bit more involved and a little bit more pre-planned than was earlier thought to be the case. Paris, if you could see by the Champs-Élysées, is in a virtual lockdown as we speak. I want to get the read from former USS Cole Commander Kirk Lippold on that and what transpired at that press conference. But, Commander, first on the developments in Paris, if indeed it is terror-related, it would simply be the latest case. What do you think?
I think you're absolutely right. I think we'll need to wait until the full information comes out. Obviously, the French authorities are still trying to find out what actually did happen on scene, what is going on now, what is the status of the supposed second gunman. I think as information trickles in, we will get a much more robust picture on whether it is or is not terrorism. Obviously, Paris has already suffered through a couple of very devastating attacks, and hopefully this won't turn into be terrorism.
You know, but it does happen, and we hear incidents like this again and again. The president alluded to that by talking about his fight on ISIS. By the way, there's no such link that we can make at this early stage here, Commander, as I ask this here. But it does serve to remind people that this fear is out there. It's a pronounced fear at that. And the president is indicating whatever you do about anything else, about North Korea, about what's going on, you know, in some of these other trouble spots, including Syria, including Iran, ISIS and its threat, terror and its threat, Israel, and he hopes to bring that up in NATO next month. But they seem to be on different pages, a lot of these leaders, how to deal with that, including what's going on in Paris now ahead of elections there, where at least the two leading candidates on the far left or the far right want out of the European Union. What do you make of all this?
I think that the world is in a bit of a flux right now. Obviously, you're seeing a lot of things as the United States under this president works to reestablish a leadership role again, because we kind of abdicated that in the last administration. You're going to see President Trump stepping in, and clearly already you can see him making very decisive moves. Syria uses chemical weapons. There are consequences. Kim Jong-un begins to directly threaten our nation with nuclear weapons and developing the technology to reach first Hawaii and then the west coast of the United States. The president is going to lay down markers, and I think that while people think it is a ratcheting up, when you look at North Korea, we have had successive administrations on both sides of the aisle that have tended to ignore North Korea, and for the first time you now have a president that sees it for what it really is. Let's talk to China. They are the ones that have aided and abetted that nation for decades, getting the technology, the wherewithal to be able to develop these nuclear weapons, and it's time to work with China to solve the problem of Korean unification as well as denuclearization of the peninsula.
You know, when you mentioned China, Commander, he kind of left over out there, you know, I'm going to go slow on this crackdown on whether they rig their currency or trade, whatever, to see what they can do on North Korea. But he's obviously, you know, keeping that out there if they don't deliver the goods on North Korea. But what if, and I know John Roberts asked about the mental stability of the North Korean leader, but what if China is incapable of reining this guy in, if he is indeed a nut and he's just doing whatever the hell he wants to do?
Well, I think at that point, Neil, then we really need to look at China and saying, look, if you can't rein in, let's wait and see what China actually does first. I mean, that's kind of making a leap of faith and kind of speculating. I think we give China an opportunity to really pull some of the levers that they control with respect to North Korea. They do not want North Korea to become a destabilized regime that would result in a mass influx of refugees coming into China. So it is in their benefit, it is to their absolute national security interests with North Korea on the border to ensure that if there's going to be a stable transition of power, that it's managed properly. But more importantly and pressing, how are we going to work the denuclearization? How do we get North Korea to stand down? And if Kim Jong-un will not or cannot do that, or China can't make him do that, then it's a whole set of options that we need to look at with China and our allies in the region to figure out, okay, what will be the next steps at this point, depending on the threat that North Korea presents to everybody.